everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. So it is August. This past July was the hottest July on record for our area, and I felt it every day. It was triple digits, and not like 101, 102 Fahrenheit. It was like 110 Fahrenheit. So now that it's August, I feel like everything has kind of calmed down a little bit. Our 10-day forecast looks absolutely beautiful, and it's giving me motivation to get back into the garden. So this morning, I just have a bunch of kind of little things that I need to get done, that I want to get done around the garden. That includes cutting back some more annuals, pruning some tree areas to give my hibiscus some more sun, sowing a couple seeds, harvesting, just a bunch of random stuff. So last week I was actually I was in Oregon at Bauman's Farm and Garden. I did a little event there, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of you that came. It was so wonderful meeting all of you and talking to all of you. I had the best time, and I just wanted to say a huge thank you. I am going to have a couple videos coming out from Oregon, maybe later on this week, maybe into next week. I have to show you all the display gardens at Bauman's Farm and Garden. They're so incredibly beautiful. It's like, I kept calling it Disneyland for gardeners. So that video will come out in a little bit. But as for today, I'm just going to be working in my garden, mainly my backyard, and just kind of getting some stuff done. So let's get going. I started my morning off in front of my office, and I decided I finally needed to get around and cut back these beautiful annuals. I have Super Tunia Tiara Blue, which is a new one for 2025 for proven winners. I love this one because I feel like it looks like a morning glory. And then my absolute new favorite introduction is the Tiara Pink. Look at how beautiful this is, you guys. So before I left for Bauman's to go to Oregon, I cut back my annuals in my front zigzag planter. I cut back my Super Beena Pink Cashmere, and I cut back my 3 hanging baskets. So it's been about a week to 10 days, and everything's starting to grow back. It is looking so good. When I was talking to Brian Bauman about my hanging baskets, he gave me a really good tip, and he said that I need to fertilize these more, which you can see the foliage is just kind of looking a little yellow. So he recommended at least 3 times a week of fertilizing. So I'm going to try that for a little while and see how these hanging baskets do, and see if I can get them to bounce back. It's just kind of that time of year where hanging baskets can kind of start looking tired. So cutting them back and really giving them a good shot of fertilizer is going to make a huge difference for them. So I came to the backyard and I started cutting everything back. When I cut back my annuals, I want to cut back my annuals about a quarter of the way, maybe a third if they're very leggy, but I don't want to go too far because I really want to make sure that I leave some of the leaves on the annuals. If you don't leave the leaves on the annuals, they will not be able to soak up the sun, and they will not be able to keep blooming for you after you've cut them back. So just make sure you don't cut them back too far. After I finished cutting back all my annuals, they weren't looking so hot. It's always sad to see these after I finish cutting them back, but to get them to grow back as quickly as possible, I decided to give them an extra dose of water-soluble fertilizer today. Jason had just fertilized these about 2 days ago, but I decided I was going to take Brian's advice and increase the amount that I'm fertilizing them. With the Proven Winners water-soluble fertilizer, the recommendation recommendation is to fertilize every 3 waterings, which is crazy because then I would be fertilizing every day. And so I've always told myself, it's okay. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to do once a week. But then when it gets to this time of year, after I've been watering and watering and watering, you can tell that these plants need a little bit extra food. I still don't think I can bring myself to fertilize every 3 waterings because literally that would be every single day. And this is a private property, so it's not that big of a deal. But I think maybe if I increase it to 3 times a week, let's see how they do with that. The next task I had on my to-do list this morning was to address these trees that were hanging over the fence and causing quite the large amount of shade for my summerific hibiscus ballet slippers hedge that I planted earlier this season. Summerific hibiscus ballet slippers, it can handle some shade, but it does bloom way better with full sun. So I thought it would get more sun, but these trees just kept growing and growing and growing and just causing more and more shade. So I decided I finally needed to do something about it. I first started off with my loppers and that worked, but then I remembered my friend Kathy gave me this automatic pruner and this baby is amazing. This thing slices through these limbs like butter. Now, this is one of those machines that you need to be very, very careful with. It has kind of like this catch safety trigger that you have to turn on before you can cut it, but it's still something that I'm going to be so very careful with and stay nice and slow and really focused on what I'm doing. But this thing made the job go by so fast. So I knew I didn't want to take out a ladder. I knew I didn't want to make a big deal of this, but when I saw what a huge, huge difference just taking some of these limbs down made for this hedge and the sun on this hedge, I knew I got to go all the way. So I think maybe sometime later this week, I'll get out a ladder and I will address more of it. But even look at this. Look at all that sun. Now on to seed starting. And I know it's kind of a funny time of year to be seed starting. I've been starting zinnias and starting sunflowers pretty regularly, but now I'm on to some cool flowers. So I'm using my Bootstrap Farmer 6 cell seed trays and my Tidy tray, which is this black tray right here. I get a lot of people asking me about it. I actually just got it off Amazon and I love it because it gives me a chance to pre-moisten my seed starting mix before I put them in my cell trays. And I've also been really loving these Bootstrap Farmer seed trays as well. I'll put links for both of these as well as that automatic pruner if I can find it. I'll put it in the description down below. So my plan for starting seeds today are actually, I'm trying to do biennials right now, kind of, sort of. So biennials are plants that don't bloom the first year. They just grow foliage the first year and then they bloom the second year. But by sowing them in the summer like I am doing now, you can basically cheat them to think that their first year is this end of the season and then they go to sleep over winter and then they wake up next spring and then they bloom, thinking that it's been 2 years. So that's what I've been trying to do. However, when I decided on the variety of foxglove, I wanted to do this beautiful Dalmatian peach. I got it from Johnny's. And this is one of the varieties of foxglove along with Camelot mix. And I think there's one more that will actually bloom first year. So it's not something I have to worry about. However, for these foxgloves, I am planning to do the cool flower method, which basically means fall planting. You want to get the transplants in the ground about 5 to 6 weeks before your first frost. So my first frost is the first week of December. About 5 or 6 weeks before that, I want to make sure I get these plants in the ground by Halloween is kind of the time that I think about. So counting back, these foxgloves take 10 to 12 weeks to grow to the point where you can transplant them. So starting them now is necessary. So my friend Christy sent me these beautiful seeds of her hollyhocks that she's grown in her garden. Hollyhocks are another biennial, and I'm doing the exact same thing where I'm trying to get them to grow this late summer, fall. I'll put them in the ground about 6 weeks before my first frost, and then I'm hoping that I'll trick them into thinking that they've gone through their first season and hopefully they'll bloom next year. I'll keep you all updated. I've read a lot of articles about this, and I think basically sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but I'm going to try anyway, and we'll see if Christy's hollyhocks bloom for me next season. So I just sowed all of these. The foxgloves do need light to germinate, so I just put them on the top. The hollyhocks, you could bury them a little bit, but I just pressed them into the soil, stuck them in my office with my grow lights, and put a humidity dome over it, which I also got from Bootstrap Farmer. So we'll see how these seeds do, how well they germinate, and if they're ready to plant out. Around Halloween is where I'm going to start planting out my cool flowers. So if you're planning to do the cool flower method, start kind of having it on your radar. It might be time to start sowing some of your seeds. My last task I wanted to address in the garden today is this tomato plant. This is a sun gold tomato, and if you're not familiar with this tomato, get familiar with it, because it is one that is just so delicious. It's so yummy. It is so easy to grow, and it is so prolific. Anybody that grows tomatoes, I've asked them, and they all say this is absolutely one of their favorite tomatoes to grow. So I'm embarrassed to show you this because I obviously haven't been pruning this plant. That's kind of what I do with my tomatoes. I'm not very good at pruning them, but you'll see, I did a garden tour at my friend's house in Oregon this past week, and her tomatoes were impeccably pruned, and it just gave me the motivation to come home and really start pruning this plant. And it's so good to prune your tomato plants. It takes away all that extra branching that is just extra foliage for the plant to support, where it could be putting all that energy into making more tomatoes. Now, this sun gold tomato, it is so prolific anyway that I don't think it really matters, but I want it to be good. I want it to be a good steward of my veggie garden. So I decided to come and really take care of it. Really focusing on all the branches that were touching the ground. That was the big thing that I wanted to make sure I got. And then also thinning it out a little bit so there was a little bit more airflow throughout this plant. After I finished pruning and cleaning up all the leaves and the fruit that had dropped underneath, I decided to fertilize it again with some tomato tone. I've fertilized this plant a few times this year, but again, we water so much here that it's good. It's really good for the plants to be fertilized. And I just did a couple of tablespoons around the bottom of the plant and then watered it in. I have a lot of people ask if Monty is attracted to the biotone or any of the tones that I put on, and he is until I water it in, and then he kind of just forgets about it. And I do think that the water masks the smell. Now, that is everything except for citrus tone. I don't know what it is about citrus tone, but he loves citrus tone. So as I was back here, I found a couple of zucchini and a couple of cucumbers and a couple of peppers, and I was very happy with my harvest for the day. here's my little mini haul for today. I'm actually kind of proud of it. I'm actually really proud of these red peppers. I've never grown sweet peppers before, so when I found these, I got really excited. So I'm excited to have those for lunch. Little baby zucchini, some orange blossom tomatoes, a ton of these sun gold tomatoes. These are so good, you guys. If you've never grown these, you definitely have to grow these. And then one good cucumber. I think these I mean, definitely this one, but I think these two are overgrown and they're going to be a little too bitter, but I don't care. Very exciting. So I think I'm going to have a good lunch today with my little mini veggie haul. I am not the best at growing veggies. I don't know. I just have way more of a passion for flowers than I do for veggies. But when I get a harvest like this, I get super excited. So I'll probably have a really good salad for lunch. Thank you all for joining me in the garden this morning. I had such a great day getting a lot of stuff done, pruning back the annuals, pruning back that tomato plant that definitely needed to be done, pruning back these trees, which I do think that I'm going to have to get a ladder out and go do a little bit more, especially now that I've seen what a huge difference it makes just to take a little bit off. So yeah, anyway, that is going to be it for today. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.